I played this stock twice, and I lost both times on it and ended up down $185. And the reason why this was so bad is because this is not something that I would ever take in the first place. Like, this was an emotional FOMO trade. What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Alex, and today we're going over February, which has been a crazy month for myself and in the market. Now, for those of you guys who actually follow the market, you guys probably know that the Dow Jones and all the other indices are pretty much falling, and they're like just crashing pretty hard down from their highs. And so I've gotten kind of questions that like, hey, you know, what do you think about this? Like, or like, hey, you know, this is probably a tough month for you, isn't it? And I just wanted to say that I trade small caps. Now, these are either penny stocks or these are low-priced, legit NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, sometimes AMX stocks that trade. But these stocks that I day trade, they don't really follow the overall market. So even though the overall market has been crashing, a lot of these stocks that I trade are actually going absolutely insane.
EA Sports.
It's insane.
Like, it's crazy. We are actually in the hottest market that I've ever witnessed. The last hot market that I actually experienced was back in 2018 when I just got into trading, and that was the weed sector hype. And I was actually getting in towards like the end of it when everything was kind of quieting down. So I didn't really get to experience much of like this hype sector, and back then I didn't really know what I was doing anyway, so anything that was kind of moving, I had no idea what that was anyway. Now, this coronavirus, as bad as it is for maybe the economy and for people that are actually getting affected by it, has brought so much hype into the market, into small caps. It's absolutely insane. We have runners that are going like 5,000% in, you know, a couple days or a couple weeks off of this hype, and it's mostly biotechs that are, you know, putting out news that they've, you know, are on the verge of coming out with a vaccine for the virus. And most likely these small cap stocks that are claiming to come out with some kind of vaccine, probably not going to happen. I mean, there's so many bigger biotech companies that aren't really penny stocks that have way more money and resources to actually come out with a vaccine. But just because these are in the small cap and they have lower floats, and these just squeeze hard. So right now, small caps are going absolutely nuts. And this is probably the craziest hype that I've ever seen. We've had literally like 15, 20 stocks in the sector running absolutely nuts, all in a matter of a couple of days. They've gone from like 50 cents to like $30, $60, $70. It's crazy, man. So no, the crash of the overall market doesn't really affect me that much. Not worried about it. And I'm short biased for the most part anyway, so anything that goes down makes me money. So, you know, I'm not too worried about it. But here's why February has been so crazy and kind of a wild roller coaster ride for me. And that's because, if you guys remember, back in January, I set a $3,000 goal for the month of February, and I was trying so hard to hit that goal that what happened was I ended up forcing trades, getting into the stocks I shouldn't have been in the first place, having a bunch of FOMO. I just wanted to make money every single day so that I could make $3,000. And I just made a lot of mistakes in the first few weeks. And so I started the month up, you know, a decent amount, like an average week, I think it was like $500 or $600. I felt like everything was going well. And the next 2 weeks just kind of dumped hard. I was all over the place. I was so emotional every single morning, trying to make that dough.
Wow, they have it. Let's get this red.
And I was failing because of that. But once I started realizing that, and I started switching my mindset and like, you know, don't worry about the money, just trade well. And that's what I did for the last week, and I actually had some really good trades. And so on Thursday, the second to last day of the trading month in February, on the 28th, I was up the most I've been up in a month. I was up a little bit over $2,000, and that's my biggest month. My previous best month was $1,900. So I was feeling good about this month. And so my goal for Friday, the last day, was to take it chill, just kind of, if there's a trade, take a trade. If there's not, it's all good. Just kind of ride out, you know, the last days of the month. And guess what happened? I had my biggest loss ever. I had a loss of $1,500. I ended up being up just slightly under $600 on the month. All my work this whole month has basically just gone. And to make things worse, this wasn't really my fault. Platform that I use, which I started to figure out after I was in the trade, that something is wrong. And so what I found out was that the chart was about 10 minutes late. At least I didn't lose like $3,000, which could have been the case. If the situation, you know, took longer, I probably would have been down at like 3,000 bucks. So that's a good thing, I guess. And the fact that I'm still green on the month is okay. But man, guys, it's so demoralizing. Boom, your money's gone. On a brighter note, what I do want to say is that my goal for the month of March is going to be to not worry about the money and to just trade the market each day. So if there's a trade, I'm going to take that trade. If there's no trade, I'm going to leave and come back the next day. But I'm not going to fall into the same trap that I fell into the first half of the month of February. And kind of going off this point, I did see something on Twitter that was from a trader that kind of really resonated with me, and it went along something like focusing on never having a red day can actually be very bad for traders, because you're kind of in the mindset of, one, taking profits as soon as you have them, so you don't really let the trade that works play out. So you're missing out on a lot of profits. And two is that when you do lose, those can be very big losses because you really don't want to take a huge loss. So what you end up doing is kind of holding and hoping. And that's obviously not a strategy for consistently profitable traders. And the reason that kind of really stuck with me is because I see myself in that situation. But anyway, hopefully March is going to be a lot better of a month. I'm going to do my best to trade and to stick to my rules and not worry about profits, and not worry about setting a goal that I want to hit during the month. Now, before we slide into my recaps from this month, I need my usual cup of joe. Now, today's cup of joe is brought to you by Mr. Grumps, and that is because this month has been a pretty wild ride. And especially today, the last day of trading in February, so this is Friday the 28th, was a terrible day, and I'll get a little bit into that. That's why today is kind of a grumpy day. All right, so let's get right into this. So here's my month of February. Started off decently in the first week. Second week was a little bit rough. Third week was a little bit rough, and then the final week was obviously pretty rough as well. Ended up with a total of $541 on the month. And again, literally right before this last day in February, I was up a little bit over $2,000. So very, very disappointing. But there are a few trades that kind of stick out this month that I do want to go over. The first one is Vivus, and that was on the 6th of February. Here is the daily chart of it. So this was a big runner on this day here, on the 5th. The reason I played it on the 6th was because it closed very far off its highs, and it had a lot of volume on that day, 30 million in volume. Here's the intraday chart on the 6th when I actually played it. So I was playing it off of like this $4.15 resistance. In the morning, it gapped down quite a bit, and what I ended up doing is taking a first position. I got in a little too early. I was a little bit impatient with it, but I got in here. And then I took my second into the second push here, and then I just ended up covering once it failed. Once it got close to resistance, it started coming back down. It didn't have enough volume to support the second day, and because most people were probably not interested in this anymore because it was pretty far off its highest. Now on the 12th, I lost $185, and this is such a bad day because I played the stock twice, and I lost both times on it and ended up down $185. And the reason why this was so bad is because this is not something that I would ever take in the first place. Like, this was an emotional FOMO trade because I think I missed like the trade I actually wanted to take, and then I just ended up getting into this or something like that. But this was a breakout pre-market from this on this daily chart. You can see this kind of grind up, spiked here, pulled back, kind of consolidated, and then it broke out. So when I see that, I usually do not want to short it, but again, because I kind of went emotional. I think I just saw a lot of potential on the downside once it did start coming down. I ended up being it, and that was really stupid. I ended up just shorting into the squeeze. This is not a good trade plan at all. I don't even think I had a trade plan, honestly. I just probably clicked short randomly. This was stupid. And then what I did was I ended up seeing this kind of grind back up, so what I ended up doing is just going long, and I never really did anything and started coming back down, and then so I had to get out for a loss. Now here was my best trade, and this is actually my biggest daily win ever. This happened on the 26th, and this was on GNPX. And again, this is something that I was already preparing for multiple days. I was waiting for this. I had a complete trade plan, and everything went according to plan. Those are the type of trades that you guys want to be in, where it's thought out very well and planned, not something that pops up in the morning that has no edge and you just jump in and it's overcrowded and it just goes up and down and it's a mess. So, and the other thing is why I want to kind of let a trade work is for this exact reason. If I had let this trade just work and not get so excited about the money, then I would have doubled. I would have been up over $1,000 on this one trade if I had let that happen. And I understand, I'm very happy with the profit on this one. And I understand taking singles is important, but when a trade is working, you want to stick it out and you want to wait until it starts reversing before you get out. So the GNPX was a big multi-day runner. I've been waiting for the backside of this move for a long time. As you can see here on the daily chart, it had a huge, it gapped up huge from like, I don't know, 40 cents or something, all the way up to like $1, a little over $1, spiked to $2, pulled back, consolidated, and then had this huge breakout over $2, all the way up to $6. I played this on this downside here, made a little bit of money. It reclaimed its highs, broke out again, and this was the big red day that I was waiting for. That because I know how GNPX trades and I want to be a little bit more patient, I really wanted to get in pre-market, but I told myself no, because if this starts going up and keeps on going, then you're screwed if you're in too early. And so I was like, I'm just gonna let this play out. So this ended up completely dumping here in the morning from like 6:30 all the way down to 5:50, and I'm like, oh crap, I completely missed the trade. Like, there's the whole move. And I was like, man, this sucks. Then it started bouncing, and I was like, hey, I still have an opportunity to get into this trade. And so I went in here at $6. It did exactly what I wanted to do, and it came all the way back down. So my first cover, I think, was very smart and strategic because it had double bottomed here from the morning low of 550. And so when I see that, I've just seen this so many times where it double bottoms and then it just ends up squeezing back up. And I didn't want to do that, so I covered half. But the second cover was terrible. When something cracks a double bottom, low of day, there should be quite a bit of downside. And I literally covered like 3 cents below this low of day crack as it was going down. And I just got so excited by the $600 profit that I was seeing on my unrealized P&L that I just took a emotional cover. This kept going down to like 460. Like, that's a lot of downside. I should have been getting out down here when it started bottoming out. This would have been a good cover. Now, what happened here and this 1500 loss is just So this was on, I don't have the chart on it, but this was on IBIO. At the time that I saw the chart, I was thinking, hey, I could possibly take a trade here, and if it doesn't work, I'll, get out. I put my limit in, according to the chart, on the bid, and I just wouldn't get executed. And so I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. So I canceled the limit order, and I threw in a market order. I got in way lower than the bid and ask, and I'm like, okay, at first I was like, oh, what the heck, this sucks. This doesn't really make any sense. Like, why am I down? So, sorry to break this really quick, but Kyle Williams, a trader that I absolutely admire, and the reason is because me and him have literally almost the exact same style of trading, so which is why I love watching his videos and I love learning from him. And he just replied, so I mean, that's pretty legit. If you guys don't believe me, I don't know if you can see that, but that's from Kyle, baby. If you're watching this, maybe once I get bigger and once my name kind of gets thrown around the trading world, you'll look back at this video and you'll be like, yo, I know you. So yeah, what's up, Kyle? Okay, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Ah, crap. Oh, and so I was just like, man, this is so weird. Like, something doesn't add up here. So I pull up to level 2, and the level 2 prices are completely different from the price action and the current price in the chart. They aren't even close. Nothing makes sense. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like wondering, like, I don't know what to do, like, what's going on? And so then my level 2 crashes and stops working. And so then I'm just blind. Like, I have nothing to guide me through this trade. And then finally, the chart kind of catches up to the price that I got in at. This chart is off by 10 minutes. And so I got into a trade that I never would have taken in the first place, according to the chart. And like, that's just crazy. Like, that, it screwed everything up. And so to make things worse, the platform crashes, obviously. By the time I was able to do anything, I was down $1,400. And something like this happens, man, it's demoralizing. Anyways, guys, that is a wrap for today's episode. Hopefully it was a little bit informative. You guys kind of got to see how my month went, the ups and downs, and the huge downfall in the end of the month. You know, I'll climb out of it, you know, I'll dig myself out. I just can't force anything. I'm going to take my time and do it one day at a time, one trade at a time. And I'll climb out of this, and hopefully I can have a good month next month. Again, no monthly dollar goal. It's just going to be to trade well. All right, thanks for watching. See you guys on the next episode. Have a good night. Peace.